Good afternoon. I am doing an Ask AJ all on my own because Phil is on about his millionth appointment of the week. I don't know what's happened in the last couple of weeks. We've done 22 consults in the last 3 weeks. In fact, what date is it today? 18th? 17th, 18th, something like that. Then 17th. So we've done 22 consults in less than 17 days because that includes weekends. It's been crazy. We've been out to see homes anything from 500 up to 3.5 million, all over the Lake District. It's been phenomenal. But in other news, I've been following Tim Farron's campaign. And Tim, if you're watching this or if anyone wants to tag you, then I'd love to have a chat with you about it, because some of what you're saying at the moment, or what he's saying, I completely agree with. I think we have got a holiday home crisis in the lakes. Some I don't think is the answer, but I'm obviously speaking from an estate agent point of view, so we're both going to be biased to a certain extent. So this is the news article. I've just printed out the main parts. A campaigning MP is to meet with the government minister to discuss controls and disincentives for second homes. I already don't like that word, disincentives, but there you go. Last month, Farron led a debate in Parliament calling for measures against short lets. He presented a 7-point plan to limit the number of second homes and make more affordable homes available for local families, which of course we're all in favour of. I've got children, just as if you're watching this, you've got children perhaps, and you know, how are they going to afford a house? Completely get that. Poor Maria, who works for us in Ashdown Jones, is struggling to buy her first home, and with no lets available as well, then it's getting to to be a point with her where she's just feeling a little bit panicked. It's a bit of a stressful situation, and every home she wants to go and see, it's got 15 viewings on it, and then they close the viewings, and then she knows it's going to go for over asking price, and then so it's all a little bit stressful. So completely get that. And when you go out and see a 3.5, 4, 5 million pound home on the lake, it's very easy to get disconnected from reality doing that. Understand that. But what I want to do is just go through some of these 7 points and just share my thoughts on this, and maybe Phil should do the same as well, because maybe his would be a bit different, but he's way too busy swanning around. So, number 1, make second homes and holiday lets new and separate categories of planning use, and this would put a limit on the number of properties, probably the proportion, in any given area. So, for example, Chapel Style. If you know Chapel Style, you know that about 95% of all those homes there are holiday lets or second homes. They're not primary residences. And I know that that'll have a knock-on effect on the services, on the school, lots of other things. So therefore, I kind of am in favour of that. I think that probably holiday lets should have planning permission. I don't think you can do that with a second home. I don't think you can ask somebody to make a decision about whether that home's going to be their first or second home. And how many weeks does that mean? I mean, we've got a good friend who's got 7 homes. You know, to her, they're all equal. She just stays a bit in each one. So does that mean she has to apply for planning permission not to live there as a primary residence? So I'm not in favour of that, but I am in favour of, if it's going to be a holiday let, potentially going for a separate planning permission, and then there being a proportion of those in each area. So that's my thought on that. Number 2 is provide targeted ring-fenced finance so that the planning departments can police it. And I think I can understand that is a problem, because there's two, if you don't already know this, there's 2 different kinds of local occupancy clause in the county. There's this SLDC, section 106, has to be certified. You have to be certified if you're a buyer of that house, and you have to be approved as the buyer of a house. And that's particularly prominent in the council, the ex-council house market. So if you wanted to buy a 3-bed semi on Dreamer Drive, you would have to prove that you've lived and or worked in the area for the last 3 years. And I do approve of that. I think that's good. What isn't so easy is when it's a Lake District National Park local occupancy clause with no policing, no certification. It's basically an optional clause, and a solicitor can choose to completely ignore it. But there's no policing, there's no enforcement. Even if you phone the national park and tell them about your neighbour, they're not going to come around with any kind of enforcement. Even if they did, what would they do? They'd force you to sell it? I don't know, force you to live in it? What could they actually do? So yeah, they do need finance to be able to police the challenge that they have, but that would be like the 4th bridge, it would never end. Number 3, give councils the power to increase council tax by up to 100% on second homes in the worst affected communities. That would generate revenue. Okay, 2 things there. No way would that put any buyer off buying a second home, the fact they've got to pay double council tax. Not a chance. yes, it would generate revenue for the local community, but what would they use that for? So it's a place like Chapelstyle, what would you actually use that fund for in Chapelstyle? Because there's no locals to provide amenities for. So I think that needs more thinking about. Number 4, force all holiday let owners to pay council tax rather than avoiding paying anything at all if they are deemed small business. Not quite true. What happens if you are a pure holiday let is that you switch from council tax to small business rates, and obviously dependent on the property, where it is, and whatever that council stipulation is and what their limitations are, you may pay less in terms of rates than you do in terms of council tax. However, things like bin collection are then extra. You don't get bin collection included if you're paying rates. You only get bin collection included if you're paying for council tax. So some people actually choose just to stay on council tax and get their bins collected. So it's not actually that much of a saving. Sometimes it can be a saving of maybe £500 a year, but it's not thousands and thousands of pounds. So I don't think that would make any difference. Number 5, give councils and national parks the power to ensure, I'm not sure what that means, the power to ensure that 100% of new builds are generally affordable. I don't think you can do that. I would strongly disagree with that one. If you've bought a house, we went to see a house yesterday with 6.5 acres. That gentleman that owns that house could sell some of those 6.5 acres and put houses on it. Why would he have to make those houses affordable? And what does affordable mean? We know somebody who sold a garden plot, to somebody who's going to build a multi-million-pound house on it. At what point does that become affordable? Affordable to whom? What does affordable mean? I mean, is it like a shared housing? What do you call that? Shared ownership housing? Or is it that you only pay, you pay half in rent and half in mortgage? That is a bit of a challenge. And actually, going back to the local occupancy thing as well, it's very difficult to get a mortgage on a local occupancy house, particularly Section 106. There's only about 3 mortgage companies that actually lend on a local occupancy house. So maybe actually the answer is to provide more funding for local first-time or second-time buyers that are trying to get on the housing market or progress on the housing market. Maybe that's something that he should consider. I just thought of that now. Number 6, ban Section 21 evictions. No idea why that's in there. I'd need to understand that from Tim. What he's saying is that if you're renting a property, you can't be evicted. Well, Section 21 exists to protect the owner of the property, to allow them to evict somebody who has wrecked the property, got a pet when they weren't allowed to, had all his friends living there, upset the neighbours, or actually not paid rent. So why would you want to ban evictions? That doesn't make any sense. Sorry, Tim, but it doesn't. I'm sure you've got reasoning behind that I don't understand. And then ensure that platforms like Airbnb aren't allowed to cut corners. Well, how much funding are you going to throw at that one? I'm sorry, but Airbnb is bigger than all the council funding in this country. So I don't know how that would even start to be approached. I do know that Airbnb isn't allowed in some countries across the UK or some cities, same as Uber. They have rules that actually ban them from operating in that area. I think it would be almost impossible to police and definitely impossible to fund to stop them cutting corners and undermine the traditional holiday let industry. I think that's a non-starter and have to meet the same standards as other rentals. No, don't agree with that. So the only thing I agree with really is the idea of allowing people to, or insisting on an owner of a house having to apply for planning, and then maybe only certain homes are allowed to be holiday let. I think maybe that is the answer. But we can't take sweeping measures against this problem, because on the plus side, well, there's a few pluses. Let me just check the time because I've got to go in a minute. So the few pluses. One is that since we opened Ashdown Jones, I know we've made millionaires out of lots and lots of locals, or for lots of locals. So some locals who thought that their house might be worth 500,000, all of a sudden we've realised 1.5 million, and they can help all their families, and all those families can now go and buy houses. So the idea, or the fact that it's such a sought after county and park, means that people will pay much higher premium to live here. Now, obviously that affects us adversely on the bottom end when our daughters and sons are trying to buy, but we can help them buy because we have released more on the top end. So I think that is a factor that we should consider. Everybody's house is worth a hell of a lot more than it would be if it was in, I don't know, Wandsworth or Prestatyn, because people want to live in the Lake District, and the price in the last 2 years have gone up, what, 20, 30, 40%. So I don't think we can argue both those two things. I think we have to say, look, I'm going to take it in the top end, I'm going to help my family in the bottom end. Or that all those people who come up for holidays all eat out all the time. You know, we've all been out to restaurants where the majority of the people who are sat in the restaurant are holiday makers. They're all putting money into our pockets. Some of my very, very good friends, so Joe Island, Lucy Nicholson from Lucy's on a Plate, Simon Rayner from Hare and Hounds. These are all people who are benefiting from the holiday let industry. And if we start trying to restrict holidaymakers coming here, then that's going to have a knock-on effect on the actual people who live and spend in this area. So if they want to send their kids to a nice school, or they want to go buy a nice car from a local, you know, from Rayrig Rovers, it's not called that anymore, is it? Rayrig Motors, then, you know, they need to be able to have the spending power to do that. And I think that's what the holidaymakers allow us to do. It's a very affluent county. Well, that's because people want to live here. So it is all a knock-on effect. Right, I'm going to get off my pedestal now because I do need to go. But I think it is a very interesting debate, and I would love to have this debate with Tim and just understand where he's coming from with these. But if you want to go and have a look at it, I think I found this on Estate Agent today, and all the facts are there, the 7-point plan. In fact, when I finish my next appointment, I will put a link to it in the comments here, and you can have a look at it for yourself. But let me know what you think. I would really, really love to know. No ranting at tourists, please. We don't need that. But if you've got genuinely a constructive idea for how we can solve this problem, if it even is a problem, then let me know, because I think we would love to hear it, and this debate needs to be a bit more open. So thank you very much for watching my rant. You can get on with whatever you were doing. It's a beautiful day here in the Lake District. So enjoy the rest of your day and the evening, and Liam, you can turn it off now. Thank you. Bye-bye.